and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brenna of Brenna's Here, and I am a human design reader and astrologer of 9.5 years, breaking down all the levels, the nitty-gritty details of human design and astrology to help you make more sense and integrate it practically to make real life changes. So in this video, we're talking about the transit that happens at the very end of May in gate 16 and into the beginning of June for my Geminis that are born around that time. But also all of us are experiencing this transit. So on the first through 6 days of this transit, you're going to be feeling some of the energies. And in order to prepare you, we might as well get into the details of what each of these days will bring. So without further ado, let's get into explaining what the gate of skills is and how you're going to be extra selective during this week. So the gate of skills is somebody who is naturally very selective. So I have a few people, including a couple of my projectors specifically, that have this placement. And this is where you're the first people to be the ultimate hype people, to bring people up, to share the good things that you know about other people, but you're also the first to criticize the things that you don't like or to take away your energy with your words. So really understanding that for you more than anybody else, your words have power. And as well, if you don't have this placement specifically in your human design body graph, you can get a copy of your chart for free in the show notes below. But if you're experiencing, as we all are, the transit this week, you're going to be noticing that you may have the desire to call things out more than normal, or to really hype up your people more than normal, write somebody a good testimonial, record a good testimonial for them. This is the week to do that. Now, a big thing with this placement and what to notice, or something to notice during this week, is that even though you are somebody that's the ultimate hype person, not everybody, especially people that don't have this placement, are always going to hype you up the same way. So it can feel a little bit disappointing sometimes when people also don't follow through with backing you up the same way that you naturally do, because you in your mind thought it was going to be a symbiotic exchange, but maybe they just didn't know, they weren't aware that they wanted you or you wanted them to comment back on your posts or whatever. And so their head wasn't thinking in that way. Now that can be hurtful, but just remember that it's not personal, even when it feels personal when people do that during this week. But what it also does is teaches you that if you want and have expectations of other people, it's worthwhile for you to communicate those things and say, hey, can you write me a testimonial for my service and I'll do the same for you? Can you comment on my TikTok post and I'll do the same for you? Always looking your energy type, strategy, and authority to see, especially for my projectors, if you have the invitation to do this, or it's been said, maybe you're in some social media growth group or something like that, make sure that the invitation is there before you go ahead and put your foot in your mouth, or hopefully don't. You are always somebody that's going to have a big sense of energy, a big levity to your life, or super enthusiastic person. So really connecting with people based on your enthusiasm, you're always going to shine. You're always going to be that bright ray of sunlight, that fire that people kind of want to warm their hands around. I did readings for a couple Geminis this past week. A lot of people will book me for their birthday session or a session for their birthday. And we are connecting on how, again, they're this fire that people want to warm their hands around, but making sure that other people are bringing logs to keep that fire going is really important. Being selective about the energy and the people that really fill you is super important, and surrounding yourself with good, like-minded energy. Another skill, if you have this placement or want to grow and use this week or this transit for the greater good, is to pay attention to who are the people that can join in on your team to make your vision or your goal, your collective goal, really come to fruition. So who's on your team, who's connecting with you, how do you kind of want to rally the troops? Really important. The only thing that I will say is an asterisk is that there's also people who have this placement that we know in the greater, wider universe on, the world stage, if you will, that will use this to also sell people a scheme, right? Maybe it's some scheme that doesn't actually benefit other people. So to always kind of be aware of those people. And at the end of the day, always trust your intuition for whether or not you are meant for somebody else or if somebody else is meant for you. The last thing I forgot to mention is that this degree placement is between 5 to 11 degrees of Gemini. So if you have a placement in Gemini from 5 to 11 degrees, that aspect is going to be extra activated for you during this. So what do we experience during all 6 days of this transit? So if you are somebody who has gate 16 in the first line, or the first day of this transit is one that you're experiencing, as we all will, this is the energy of delusion. So in its exalted placement, it's somebody who really is able to manifest through the mutable daydreaming qualities, a little bit of that healthy maladaptive daydreaming actually for mutable placements, I think is always a little bit more encouraged. You just want to make sure that you're doing it in a healthy way, because the delulu does become true for you. That delusion is actually helpful to bring about your big goals and dreams, because you're kind of healthily obsessed in thinking and communicating, Gemini being ruled by Mercury, in that world. Now, in its detrimented aspect, it's claiming that fantasy is actually factual, as it's quoted in human design literature, where it's like you believe your delusion so much that you state it as a fact without actually having logic to back it up. And that can be fine when you're channeling, maybe you're working on your intuition, but you just want to make sure that you are not quoting it as actual written literature, factual information, without knowing that you've implemented on your intuition, you've come up with some sort of strategy, and just really treading the path lightly there, so to speak, where you're really aware of where you're just saying things just for the sake of saying them, getting attention, getting other people to buy something from you, or you're really using your intuition for the greater good of knowing that when you are able to really live and embody what you know your future self is capable of manifesting and pulling it into the present, that healthy maladaptive daydreaming will say, that's where you want to just again, tread that line very carefully and really pay attention to where you want to use this for its benefit versus getting yourself too deep into the detriment. So on the second day of this transit, we may be feeling a little bit more cynical, or if you have gate 16 in the second line, this is where you can sometimes naturally be more of a cynic. Now, in its exalted placement, you are somebody who just is really healthily judgmental, has a really good discerning eye, and is really bringing awareness to why are we doing something? What's the point? Why is somebody asking me this question? Why am I being presented with this information? And really using your discernment for saying, oh, okay, I got this information because it helps me solve XYZ sort of problem, or somebody had XYZ sort of question that they know that I'm able to solve. In its detrimented aspect, is always kind of feeling you have to look over your shoulder, or always thinking that certain things are happening to you, not for you, in that kind of negative minded aspect. Now, on the third day of this transit, and something I notice so often in my life, in all the readings that I've done in the 9.5 years that I've been doing this work, is independence. And so in its exalted placement, and how this placement is meant to be used is by being independent, sharing and pouring out through your overflow, excitement from other people. In its detriment, or where people fall into the category more often, is being really frustrated that you're not getting attention fast enough, sharing with other people whatever it is that you're working on, and expecting their excitement to fuel what you're doing to generate money, outcome, and success that is helping you achieve your goals, right? So it's hyper dependence on other people's reaction, and using them as a way to fulfill your wants, needs, and desires, when that's not the way it works for your success. You never want to be relying on other people's energy, other people's coattails, other people's desires for whatever it is that you want to share, in order to get the motivation to do something. That is the quickest way to make sure that your business, your excitement level for whatever it is that you're doing, crumbles really fast. There is no solid foundation if you are not excited and able to do things independently. So be really aware of this on the third day of this transit, when we have gate 16 in the third line, or if you have gate 16 in the third line yourself. Now, gate 16 in the fourth line, or on the fourth day of this transit, this is known as the leader, and it's in its exalted placement. It's being the leader that knows the perfect person for the exact job that they need to carry out as a part of a team, or in life, right? Like you're celebrating somebody who really does have a talent and you're willing to sing their praises. In its detrimental aspect, it's this idea that if I share or highlight or get too hyped up about somebody else, that means that I'm going to go without, and really paying attention to where you withhold your praise, frankly, from a point of jealousy, or where other people may be withholding their praise from you at this time because they are also jealous, or they don't want recognition to go to you because they assume that you already have enough, right? So be really aware of where people may be doing this to you, but also where there could be another inclination of you doing this to other people. There's nothing wrong with really recognizing your relationship to jealousy, right? Making sure it doesn't turn to full-blown envy, but just because when you feel that emotion, you're getting that sense of, oh, I feel this because I know that I'm capable of having it too, but it's just not brought into my current reality. So make sure that you give people their flowers when their flowers are due, and your flowers will also come to you. So the fifth day of this transit also holds a little bit of the energy of the day prior. Line 5 is known as the line of the Grinch. And so basically this reliance on feeling like you do have to rely on other people to be a part of your happiness, or in order to be happy. And this is really paying attention to, and it's exalted and it's detrimented placement, whether or not you are surrounded by good people, by good community, by people that you can rely on when you maybe don't feel your best. We all have days that don't feel great, and we could be a little bit more prone to that today, or on the fifth day of this transit, or if you have this placement. But it's knowing, like, who are my hype people? Who are the people that really support me when I need it? Versus where do I feel like I'm unable to rely on other people because you may be afraid that that you would be a burden. This is where we also see another level of really making sure that you give people the recognition that they deserve when you feel inspired by them, when you teach somebody else something that they taught you, so that you're giving credit where credit is due, and knowing that that's not going to send everyone that's interested in working with you their way. I see a lot of people in my spiritual entrepreneurship. I cover this a lot in my 8-week mentorship program. If you guys want more information on that, you can find that on my website, which is also linked in the show notes below. But we work through why you setting up your business for success based on you. Business is not going to be taken away when you give other people credit for whatever it is that you learned. Ultimately, what ends up doing is allowing you to collaborate and then growing your circle, because you have your audience that's connecting with another person's audience and you guys are growing together. It becomes a symbiotic relationship as long as people know that if, say, you have a podcast and you're bringing them onto your podcast to interview them, right? It's like being able to make sure that that person's going to share your podcast interview on their platforms and get a shout out since you're interviewing them. And that can be the expectation. But just again, Mercury is about communication. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So there's nothing wrong with stating the obvious or what you perceive to be obvious, to make sure that it's you guys giving each other bouquets and each person getting their right flowers at the right time, to not feel Grinch-like. Last but not least, on the 6th day and the last day of this transit, or if you have gate 16 in the 6th line, this is the line known as gullibility. And this is where you really want to watch out for other people's words. Are you leaning towards the detriment where it's immediately withdrawing because you are unsure of what somebody is saying to you, rather than asking clarifying questions, or really just, again, being curious, not judgmental, as I mentioned in my video last week for gate 20's transit. Look at that if you have gate 20 in your human design body graph. Or are you really able to listen for real, misleading information? I'll say, I wanted to be careful in how I choose my words there, but really, where are there people trying to pull the wool over your eyes? Paying attention to that during the last day of this transit. So if you want to be in the know for the energy of next week, to plan your offerings, your promotion, your energy, anything that you want to do for the next week ahead, to be prepared and make sure that you're aligning with the energies of that time. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it if you feel like it would be helpful to other people, and let me know if there is a way that I can also give you your flowers. Please feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I will see you for next week when we talk about gate 35, the gate of change. So I will see you guys then. Have a beautiful rest of your week.